Hello, this is George, and I'm going to show you today a demonstration and or tutorial using my TradingSimula-18, which is Python based, and using an artificial intelligence and AI chatbot to create an indicator for me. Now, many of you may be using, different platforms such as TradeStation or multi-charts. Or different things like that. And a lot of these indicators are already built in. And also you can use these chatbots to produce easy language code for indicators that are not in your library. Now, many times, since easy language or power language is such a small subset of all the programming languages out there, many times you get bad code because there's just not a lot of people querying that type of programming language for the production of functions or whatever procedures or anything in that type of language. But in Python, everybody uses Python. So a lot of queries are getting requested, and the AI chatbots are using those queries and the output to learn as it goes. That's how it does. It's progressive, and it becomes better and better the more it's used. So there's the amount of Python code out there is tremendous, and also it's probably more accurate. But a lot of people don't understand what they get when they ask, if you're working with Python, what you get when you ask for one of these chatbots, such as ChatGPT or U.com. I used U.com today to create this indicator. So I'm going to tell you what it's creating and what you need to be able to take advantage of that code that these chatbots are creating. It's free code. You can use it, and it's because it's Python, it's probably going to be pretty accurate. Okay, so let's start with TradingSimula-18 informational video. AI chatbots are great writing code for technical, but you need a framework that reads the data that you want to test and a framework that calculates all the profit and loss metrics. Chatbot code and an existing framework such as TradingSimula-18 or even Backtrader creates beautiful synergy. But you got to understand how you embed that code into the platform you're using. We're going to be using TradingSimula-18, and we're going to try to take out pure code from one of these chatbots and just plug and chug it directly into TradingSimula-18. Okay, we're going to do the TEMA, which is the triple exponential moving average. Uses multiple EMA calculations and subtracts out the lag to create a trend following indicator that reacts quickly to price changes. Supposedly by using an exponential moving average of an exponential moving average of an exponential moving average, you get a quicker response than just a regular exponential moving average. So basically, that's what this indicator is going to do. I did not have that built into my TradingSimula-18 library. I'm building my library every day. I'm adding indicators and all kinds of neat stuff, and eventually I'll release the release version of my TradingSimula-18. Of course, just check my websites and I'll let you know when that happens. Here is the calculation for the TEMA in a simple arithmetic expression here. You got 3 times EMA1 minus 3 times EMA2 plus EMA3. And EMA1 is the exponential moving average of the underlying data. So I'm going to be passing it the closing data of 3 different markets: the bonds, beans, euro currencies. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take an exponential moving average of the first one, and then we're going to take, which will produce a double smooth exponential moving average of the closing price. And then we're going to do that again with a third one. Okay, so you're going to have 3 exponential moving averages. Conceptually, it seems pretty simple. When it comes to programming this thing, it is a little bit more difficult, but not too bad. And again, I used U.com. I have found that to create code. It seems to create better code or more easily read code. I don't know. I think you can get the same code. I did ChatGPT, and I didn't really care how it produced the code. It produced the exact same results when I ran it. U.com did. I read somewhere that creates really good programming code. I don't know if that's the case or not. Of course, you've got Gemini, which is I didn't use Gemini. I will use that eventually. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Let's jump into the chatbot. We'll leave that. Let's see what the chatbot did for me. Chatbot, here it is. This is u.com. I told it to create. I wanted a simplified version of the TEMA indicator. I wanted it without the libraries, NumPy or Pandas. I wanted straight, generic, raw Python code that would be working on the data that I would be sending it via the function interfaces. So basically, here is the code for creating the TEMA, the triple exponential moving average. It expects data and the number of bars in its calculation. In this case, we're going to be using 34 days. So first off, it calls the EMA of the data that we'll be passing, which is 34. It comes right into here. I'm feeding that into the EMA function, closed in 34 period. EMA is defined up here. So this function calls another function. Now, I already have an exponential moving average calculation built into TradingSimula-18, but I wanted to go ahead and utilize all the code that was produced by u.com, this chatbot. So it created, not only did it create my TEMA function, it also created the sub-function that is needed to do the calculation, and the sub-function is just an exponential moving average. And so it did this neat little function for me. It says, okay, if it's 0, we're going to create a list, and if we're going to loop through that entire list. Our multiplier, which is the smoothing factor, is just 2 divided by 34 plus 1, which is 2 divided by 35. If I is equal to 0, when we loop, which is the first iteration, just append the closing price of the data. From that point on, we're going to start building the exponential moving average by using the current data and subtracting the prior exponential moving average times the multiplier, and then we're going to add the prior exponential moving average. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's the EMA calculations all you are probably familiar with. So I'm just going to leave that in there, have it call its own function. I'm just going to copy and paste this directly into TradingSimula-18 and into the indicators module. I have a separate module for all the indicators. So the EMA is going to call the EMA with the closing prices, the raw data, 34 period. And when it does that, it's going to call this, and it's going to loop through whatever data I send it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send it the entire history of my bond data. That could be 20 years of data. It could be 30 years of data. In this case, it's probably 20. So when I call this function, I'm going to pass it 20 years of data. So I want the EMA1 to be a list, and as you can tell, when I call this function, a new list is created. I want that list to contain every bar of data for the 20 years on the bonds. I want that list to contain each EMA value for 34 periods. Okay, so I'm going to call it one time with that 5,000 bars of data. Then I'm going to do it again. But this time I'm not going to call it with the raw data. I'm going to take the output from the first function call and I'm going to feed it into the second function call. So I want 5,000 doubles exponentially moving average smoothed values for every bar of data in my history. I do it again the third time, and then the TEMA is going to be calculated for every bar of data in my history by using this simple calculation. Now this is using list comprehension. We will not use that in my actual TradingSimula Python code. Basically, that's basically an implied loop or implicit loop or list comprehension, whatever you want to call it. It just makes it, I think it's faster, and the code, to me, I'm used to list comprehension, so it makes sense, but I think from a beginner's perspective, it's kind of hard to understand that we're looping what's inside these brackets, these parentheses. I'm sorry, we're looping inside these parentheses by this index and this loop function mechanism here. Okay, I won't go into detail how that works, but let's go ahead and jump into TradingSimula-18, and I'll show you the code there, and then we'll discuss some other things too, some theoretical things. So let's jump into TradingSimula-18. I'm going to go over to my indicators module right there, and I've got it already set up. Here it is. Let's do it. There, basically, it's the same code. I've taken that that comprehensive or list comprehension mechanism out. I just created a simple for loop here. Okay, it's the exact same code. The only thing I added was TEMA is now a list where it was a scalar variable, meaning it only had one value per bar. I'm storing it because I need to know the TEMA value for every bar in my data, be it the bonds, the soybeans, or the euro currency. So I just created a list, and I'm poking my information or pushing that information into the list, and then I'm going to return the list. Okay, so without a framework that collects the data, goes out there to your computer, opens up the bond data, your soybean data, your currency data, and then can put that into a list and then push that into a function call. Without that, that code's basically useless. The code that you downloaded from the Chatbot, well, it may not be 100% useless, but it's not useful as is. It's useful as a learning tool. You can say, okay, this is how the team is calculated. Well, let me go and translate that into my own language, easy language, power language, AMI broker, whatever. But if you want to be able to take that code and do exactly, and copy and paste it and do what it's exactly telling the computer it should be doing, then you're going to have a framework such as TradingSimula-18. Maybe even Backtrader would do it. I'm not sure. But there's a lot of Python backtesters out there that you can incorporate this code into. I'm just saying you need the framework to collect the data, do the calculations, and then, of course, test the data and create the performance metrics by keeping track of the profit and loss for every trade that is produced by your logic. So here is, that's basically my calculations, copied, pasted, almost, that's probably 90% the same. Only thing I did was I got rid of that list comprehension for the TEMA, and I'm storing the TEMA into a list. Okay, here is the code that I use. This is the new look of TradingSimula-18 2024. The interface is a little bit more clean. It's a little faster. I allow people to use different databases, and you can interface the databases right here. I'm using a Pinnacle database. I won't go into detail what these F2 care is symbol is. We'll do. I've got a manual course that I'm making right now. We'll go into detail about that. Here's the market list. The market list goes out there and it pulls in all the data. I'm going to be testing a portfolio of 3 markets. So it's going to be, my market list is going to have 3 markets, and it's going to have all the history of those 3 markets, be it 5, 10, 15, 20, 25,000 days or whatever. 5,000 days, how many years is that? It's like 15 years or something like that, 200 and some odd trading days in a year. So how do I interface with that indicator I just created by basically copying the Chatbot information or code? Basically, I'm going to create a list. Here we go. That's the most important thing for newcomers to TradingSimula-18. Everything is list-based. Because the way I run through the portfolio, I don't run through the portfolio by doing, say I've got 3 markets, doing bonds all the way from the beginning to the end, and then jumping over to euros from the beginning to the end, and then going to soybeans from the beginning to the end. When I analyze a day of data, I jump from one market to the next, okay, for that day. And let me give you an example of that. And you might be able to visualize this better with an Excel spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is, on a day, say today is 12/11, right? Well, instead of going this way and doing all my analysis for each day in the bond market, and then jumping over here and doing all my analysis, and then jumping over here doing my analysis, which a lot of back testers do that, I go horizontally. So on 12/12, I jump into the bonds, and then I jump into the euros, and then I jump into the beans. So all my calculations are bond based, and then all my calculations are euro based, and then all my beans my calculations are bean based. And then at the end of the day, which is at this far end over here, I know exactly what my position is for bonds, and I know what my position is for euro. I know what my position is for beans. And then I can make a trading decision for the next trading day. So that's what I like about TradingSimula-18. It does add a slight complexity to the programming. So let me show you how that works. So I'm going to create a list, and this is going to be a list that contains a market-specific list, a list of lists. And that may blow your mind, but basically, just think a list in Python can be, is it immutable or mutable? Immutable. I think it's immutable. Immutable. You have to look that up. I can never remember what that is, but it says it contains different data types. One list can contain different data types. Now, in most programming languages, a list of integer can only contain a list of integer. An array of integer can only contain an array of integer. Or an array of strings can only contain string variables or string values. In Python, a list can contain a string variable, it can contain a numeric variable, it can contain an integer variable, it can contain a list. So a list of lists. And that's what we're doing here. We're creating a list of lists. And let's look at the Excel one more time. This is my TIMA AI list. I call it AI because of artificial intelligence. So the first list in that list, the list of lists, and it's subscripted 0 because Python is 0 based. The first list is going to contain all my bond results, or my calculations, my TIMA calculations for bonds. In list number 2, subscript 1, it's going to contain all my TIMA calculations for every bar of data in the euro currency. And then finally, in the third list in the list, which is subscript 2, it's going to contain all the bean calculations from my TIMA indicator for every day of data that I have for that market. So that's how that works. So we have a list of lists. Okay, I'm going to I need to collect all the data for each market. So I got a loop here. So I'm going to loop for each market for the current market in my num markets. And num markets in this case is 3. It's the portfolio. I'm going to go from 0 to 2. Remember, in range, you don't hit that last value. It's not inclusive. It's exclusive of that. So we're going to go 0, 1, 2. My current market data is going to be in my market monitor list, current market. That's just say, okay, market monitor list. It's going to be bonds, market data. And my data C is a list, and it's going to be bond close prices. And I'm going to pass it. I'm going to append my list to calculate the TIMA. Okay, and remember, TIMA returns a list. So when it gets through with this here, my TIMA AI list is going to be a list of 3 lists that have the TIMA calculation or result for every day of data. And then I can jump around over here from one list to the next and determine if the close is greater than, if I'm not long, if I'm not long, and the current close, D1 yesterday, I'm sorry, is greater than the TIMA AI list in the current market, because we're looping from one market to the next. So I have to say current market and yesterday's value. If it's greater than that, then I'm going to buy. And the same thing goes for the short entry. If I'm not short and the close of yesterday is less than TIMA AI list, which is a list of lists, but I'm indexing into it for whatever market I'm currently examining. It could be the bonds, the beans, or the euro. If it's greater than the value at that particular date in time, then I'm going to go ahead and sell short. So I just wanted to show you real quick that the Chatbot code is great. If you don't know an indicator and you want to translate it into a different language, have it create it for you in Python. Because I think Python, even if you're programming in easy language, is easy to translate into easy language. But if you do have a framework, a Python-based framework, such as TradingSimula-18 or some other, Python-based framework, you can more or less copy paste that code directly into it, and you're going to get the results you want. So that's my little quick tutorial on how to use a Chatbot derived indicator in a framework, and we did it all in Python without the use of NumPy and without the use of pandas. Okay, I appreciate it. Just check out my website, georgepruitt.com, and if you have any questions, just email me. Thank you.